¿Qué pasa, mi gente? Welcome to another video. So you read the title and thumbnail. So you just turned 30 and you want to be a content creator. So I used to think the age, like literally 30, was the age where you're supposed to have everything figured out. Like you have the house, you have the marriage, you have the career. But instead, I'm choosing to double down on content and business at age 29, right? Because the reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place is because I figured that a lot of people could probably be in the same situation that I'm currently in as well. So I want to take the next couple of minutes to reassure you, if you're a content creator or you're starting your content creator journey or you're just getting into content for your business, I want to reassure you that you are not late. I want to essentially give you some life lessons that I've learned up until 29. Not having the house, not having the marriage, not having the career. Well, having the career because I own my own business, right? That make multiple six figures. But give you examples of late blooming creatives and 5 actionable steps that you can use to start creating now, even at the age of 30. My name is Pedro Millan. If you've never been on my channel before, I literally own 2 SMMAs that make multiple six figures. And I'm currently with 50 million views across platforms, in addition to 100 appointment sets for me and my clients, and a campaign that won a Grammy last year for the 67th Grammy Awards. But I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to make sure that you guys make better content for you or for your business. But before we get into everything, if you like the video so far, could you please like this video and also subscribe to the channel, because I'm trying to get these videos out every single day and you don't want to miss them. I literally talk about content planning, content strategy, Instagram, YouTube, the works, storytelling, filmmaking, etc., 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 for you and your business. And I think it'd be really valuable if you happen to follow me. Otherwise, let's get back into the video. So the first lesson, more so than anything else, is that your timeline is a myth. Your timeline is a myth. So what does I mean by that? Essentially, culture sells you this fake rendition of a timeline that your life should be in specific situations at a specific age, being 30 years old. But in reality, real life doesn't care. I'll give you some examples, right? So Django Reinhardt, if you don't know who he is, he's essentially a gypsy guitar player, I think actually Romani Belgian to be very specific, that played jazz roughly in the past, like around the 1950s, 60s, 70s. And he basically lost 2 of his fingers. Imagine a guitarist losing their 2 fingers in a fire at 18 years old. So he basically revolutionized guitar playing, and as far as the simplicity and just working around with just 2 fingers, bro. Literally playing, and became one of the greatest guitarists ever, right? But he didn't start his career until he was in his dang 40s. Which basically means your story doesn't have to be linear, right? You can literally start whenever you feel like, right? Another example, Stan Lee, obviously co-created many Marvel characters and superheroes in his late 30s and also in his 40s. It's like literally a multi-billion-dollar entertainment company at the age of his late 30s and 40s, which is crazy. Morgan Freeman, another really great example, like prolific actor, like owner of a crap ton of acting awards, didn't become widely famous until he was in his 50s. Sarah Blakely was controversial as far as that is concerned, but Sarah Blakely was essentially the owner of Spanx before she sold it recently, and she started Spanx at 30 years old and became a billionaire. Like Peter Oakley, too, as well, started a YouTube channel, I think it's Geriatric 1927, as a pensioner, sharing life stories and millions of views. So if you think about it, really, if Morgan Freeman became a global icon, if all these people became global icons in their own respective fields in their late 50s, in their late 30s, in their late 40s, then it's not late at 30 for you to start making content. Essentially, you're just basically early for the next version of you, the next chapter, right? For example, for me, as of being 29, going into 30, going into 2026, I currently own 2 different businesses, which are very profitable, I will say. Obviously, within the 6-figure range, trying to get into the next 7-figure range, obviously, as far as gross revenue. And I still don't have a house. I still don't have a new car, and I still don't have a wife. I literally am currently in my studio every single day where you see all these videos are being recorded. I don't have a new car. I've been driving the same car since 2017, actually, which is a Honda Civic. Shout out to Francesca. And I don't have a wife. I don't even have a girlfriend right now. So it's just to give you reference, right? As far as like, you could literally become super accomplished, but the beginning of the rest of your life could literally start whenever you choose to make that decision, if that makes sense, right? Because for the past 10 years, before even having a company that's actually like relatively like good and good standing, I was a musician. I was just basically broke on my time, broke on the money that I was able to gain from all the shows that I was doing, and then just working like a maniac in New York City and multiple different places around the world. And finally, it's the time where I actually genuinely feel like I have more control of my life. But I didn't feel like that up until like the age 29. So who's to say that you can't have the same feeling, right? And now I'm in the process of developing like, oh, now I'm going to get the house. Like, oh, now maybe the new car in the next 5 to 10 years. Or like maybe getting into a relationship and this, that, and the third. But that wouldn't have started if I hadn't embraced the whole 10-year long run of being a musician overall, right? You have to think of your life, especially if you're starting content, as more of just a direction and a dream that you actually want to start taking into consideration more so than anything else, right? Because content is hard. I'm gonna be mad honest. It's like you're essentially creating content not only for yourself, but also for the viewer. So if this is something that you want to genuinely do, 29, 27, 28, 30 years old, it's not late. You're just starting a new chapter. Now, lesson 2. You don't necessarily have a content problem. You have an identity problem. I made a video about this. You can check that out. But this is more so a synopsis of that video, right? People say that I don't know what to post, or no one cares about my content, or at least no one cares about my content enough, right? The reality is that they haven't decided who they are in person and online yet. So then what you really need to realize is what you binge watch, what you read, what you obsess over, gives you clues about what you want to make, right? At 30, you actually have more than the average 17-year-old or 15-year-old starting on YouTube overall, right? You have more life experience, you have more scars, you have more opinions, which makes better content if you use them, right? So if you think about it, you have to literally just consider this framework that I developed in that other video that I mentioned, which is essentially world, role, and persona. Your world is essentially what topics do you naturally live in? Like, for example, do you live in the finance industry? Are you a fitness planner? Are you a creative person? Like, are you an artist, this, that, and the third? Are you faith-based? Or do you want to really talk about parenting now that you just had your first or second child? Like, do you want to talk about real estate because you're in the real estate niche? Now, the role behind that is how are you going to present yourself, right? Which is essentially, do you want to be presenting information as a teacher, as more of a documenter, as an analyst, as an entertainer, as a commentator? And then your persona is essentially how you're demonstrating or how you're distributing the information within that role, which is essentially, are you going to act like the big brother to everybody in this field? Are you going to become the calm strategist? Are you going to provide chaotic energy, kind of like I Show Speed? Are you going to show more introverted depth and more care with everything that you describe? It's up to you, right? You have to figure out what is your why. Like, why are you doing this in the first place? Why do you want to be a content creator in the first place? Like, I want to help 1 million business owners get into creating content for themselves or for their business or both. Reason being is because I genuinely believe that if you get into making content, no matter if it's AI, VTubers, literally making, I don't even know, like drawings or carousels or whatever it is on any type of social media, you will literally change your life forever because it is going to be the biggest distribution channel in the future. And literally people are going to be investing in it like nobody's business. So I even recommend telling people, like, pick up a freaking camera, and I shake them, you know what I'm saying? I put my hands on people because I love them, right? But I don't put my hands on every single person that I see, right? So, but the main thing is that I really want more people to get into content. And I think even if you were just starting at 30 years old, like you still have a chance. You still have an option, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you have to get to 1 million people in order to help people out, but you just got to start somewhere. Now, lesson 3, you need a plan, okay? You need to build a simple content business plan, just like you make a business plan for your business or for yourself or for your own endeavors, right? Depending on how you want to go about this. And here's a very simple system, okay? I'm going to give you 50, 40, 10. Just remember those numbers forever, okay? 50% is essentially top of funnel content, which is essentially the purpose of that is to entertain the masses, okay? So like strong hooks, stuff that's culturally relevant, calling out beliefs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Stuff that's happening in the world, and how do you relate it to your niche? Very simple. 40% is essentially the middle funnel, right? Which is essentially you educate the interested. So then what are you going to be doing? You're essentially teaching your frameworks, breaking things down, and essentially showing your process to help somebody do something about their lives, or at least change their lives in some capacity within the realm that you teach, right? And then 10%, the bottom funnel, is essentially to sell to the committed. Essentially the people who love your stuff, who love your videos, this, that, and whatever. Now you talk directly to those people about your offer, what you have to help them out diligently, and a way to develop more client stories that you can share or gain from clients that you'd get if you're running a business, right? So at 30, we don't have time to just post and pray or spray and pray. Big pause, no diddy. Your content needs an intention. I mean, like literally average life expectancy for a man is like 76. So realistically, you have to be operating like you don't have any time left to yourself, right? So that's the first thing. 50, 40, 10. Remember that forever. Now, the second thing is design videos in reverse. So every single video that you plan, I would suggest start with the end in mind. Meaning the reason being is because what you want them to feel or do is dependent on how amazing or how effective you deliver the information. Like all these videos, I want to make sure that I'm basically having like a heart-to-heart, like kind of like fireside chat sort of situation, right? So that's how I design these videos. And eventually I'll be able to get an editor for myself and this, that, and the third. But for now, this is how the videos are going to be, right? But I want you to take into consideration that the opening of the video, mind you, you have to take the ending with the video in mind, right? At the beginning of the video, you want to make sure that the first 30 seconds of your video, if you're doing long form, or the first 3 to 6 seconds earns the attention from the people who are watching it. If your retention at the beginning of your video on short form is 90% and the beginning of your video in long form is 70%, 60, 70% around there, then every 2 to 3 seconds on short form or every single minute on long form is a handshake to the next. So that way we can assure that every single person that we talk to on a given basis is literally engaged to what we say, right? And I've seen that over the course of my videos, and you can do this in a multitude of ways and take into consideration with the scripts that you use, right? Whether it be in your skits, in your Yap videos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the content and essentially the words that you use to describe what you're trying to explain, you have to ask yourself, does a stranger care about this? Especially when you're editing this stuff, right? And if they don't, and you say no, then you take that out of your video. Super simple. And the last simple content, or I guess part of this content strategy, is essentially volume and testing. Know that for a fact that you have to commit to a daily rep of making content. You don't have to necessarily post them according to me, but it would be awesome if you'd be able to post a video a day and be able to see the metrics of where everything is at. I would say essentially treat the first 100 to 300 videos as paid practice. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have to post like 100 videos now? I have to post 200, 300 videos now? It's like, bro, how are you going to know if your stuff actually works, right? How are you going to know if your retention is where it's supposed to be? How are you going to know if the topics that you actually talk about are interesting if you're just posting once a week? That doesn't make any sense, okay? If anything, it's grind time, prime time. You're about to be 30. You just turned 30, or you're even past 30. You don't got time like that. So you might as well spend more of your time making more videos so that way the experimenting process, or at least the growing phase, whether it be on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or whatever you use, is much shorter in comparison to somebody that's just basically posting once a week, okay? So that's lesson number 3. Lesson number 4, authenticity and your platypus. So what does that mean? First of all, authenticity will always have an audience. I don't care whatever it is. You could be in the WDNA, not WDNA, the WNBA, the WNBA. You could be, I don't know, underwater basket weaving. You could be spear fishing. It doesn't matter. What you authentically do is always going to have an audience. It doesn't matter. Everybody will watch something. It just might not be the people you expect, or you might not get like a certain masses of people, right? So what I want you to understand is a very simple concept. It's a platypus. Just think about a platypus, right? And if you don't know what a platypus is, check that ish out. It's weird. Your expertise and your market value. You essentially have these three quadrants, or these three circles, like essentially coinciding in order to figure out what exactly it is you should be making content about. So your first concept, the platypus, right, is essentially like when you think of a platypus, what do you see? You see like a weird thing with like a duck bill and beaver tail and you know, kind of like a long body, this, that, and the third. It's weird. Essentially, this is the effortless stuff that you are genuinely weird about, or the stuff that makes you 100% you. Just like the platypus is 100% them, the platypus in yourself is you, 100% you. What you do, what you believe in, what you talk about, what you're obsessed about, etc. The next little quadrant that we have in our Venn diagram is essentially expertise, right? Essentially what you know and what you can help people with, more so than anything else based off of your experience, right? Very simple. And then market value is more so what are people actually buying? What do they actually care about? And then between the coinciding area between these three different things will essentially prove to you what should you be talking about, more so than anything else, right? Your best content at 30 comes from the life that you actually lived, the mistakes you made, and essentially the boring jobs, the heartbreaks, literally everything that has happened in your life. And it's all the raw material for your platypus overall, right? If you could literally just write down 3 things people always ask for your advice on, which is essentially your expertise, 3 topics that you never get bored of, which is essentially your market interest, or 3 topics that they're never get bored of, like it could be health, wealth, and relationships, for example, and 3 weirdly you traits or interests that essentially describe you or what you love to talk about. And then in between all those 3 things in every single quadrant, there will coincide certain things that you can basically talk about and make content about. Lesson number 5. We're going to talk service over ego, right? Service is the most important quantity out of all of this when becoming a content creator, especially if you want to help people, okay? I have to ask you the question, like, do you really want this dream? Like, if you do, it basically means being consistent, being seen, being judged, being forthright with your willingness to help, right? One thing that has been told to me time and time again in multiple different ways, but essentially boils down to this by many mentors of mine and from the books that I read: if you live a life of service, you will never be broke. And that is a fact more so than anything else in my life. The reason being is because when you're 30, when you're getting older, your purpose is not to figure out how to go viral, right? And if the only reason why you're doing this is because of vanity metrics and just to be like known in the world, like, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. But it should be, how can I serve the version of me that is 2 or 3 years behind, right? At 30 years old, you've essentially accumulated so much experience that you can help younger people in their current situation avoid mistakes. You could help peers who are stuck where you were, literally at 24 to 26, maybe even earlier. And you can literally act as a guide and not just a performer, right? And you have to ask yourself the question, this is like, what does your experience let you do once you become 30, once you become 35, whatever it is, right? So once you apply service to whatever it is that you do on these content platforms, people will realize that not only you are a genuine person, but on top of that, you are doing what all humans are intended to, right? Like to help each other, to invest in other people, to take into consideration what people are going through, you know, being empathetic, you know, being forthright with your moral compass, this, that, and the third. And the more service you provide, the funny thing is that the more results you get. But it's kind of crazy actually to think about. So I don't want you to leave this video thinking like, oh, let me service so I can get the result that I want. But it's more so, let me insatiably service the people that were currently in the position that I was years ago. So that way they don't make the same mistakes. And on top of that, they can aim to be at a better position than I currently am with whatever it is that I do. And I think that's amazing. Anyway, here's literally an actionable 30-day starter plan that you can immediately start today. So that way you can help people more often with making content, especially if this is your beginning stages of making content overall. First of all is pick your lane. You have to essentially pick your platypus, what's your expertise, and what's your market value, and write in one sentence an I help statement, being I help X people do X desired outcome in X way. Okay? Super simple. You can fill that out on your own time, literally put it in your notes, and literally put that everywhere. Number 2, commit to 30 days of posting. Okay? That means one video a day, one platform. Okay? Whether it be short form or long form, depending on the platform, for 30 days, which is 30 reps, right? And use the 50-40-10 ratio across the month, right? Take into considerations like, oh, is this top funnel, is this middle funnel, or is this bottom funnel? And, you know, take that into consideration for your business or whatever it is that you're trying to build, whether it be a personal brand or some more marketing for your business. Next, use your age as an advantage. Film a series like Lessons I Learned in My 20s or Things I Wish I Knew Before 30. Anything that is related to what you do or what you really want to talk about, built in with a story and adding that credibility to the content that you're making because of the fact that you've already lived 30 years of life, right? Or 35 or 40, however you want to see it. And then step 4, weekly review. I want you to look at your retention across all of your content, see what topics actually perform, and then keep what holds attention and just literally distract and kill the rest of the stuff that does not, okay? So, if you're 30 and just starting, you're not behind, okay? You're just arriving with a little bit more story, a little bit more experience, a little bit more wisdom, and more skin in the game. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And if this video makes you do the jump to actually start making content, I already done my job. Anyway, if you like the video, make sure to like the video right now, or actually, in addition to that, subscribe to the channel because I put videos out like this every single day and you don't want to miss them. Let me talk about content, content strategy, social media marketing, filmography, cinematography, all the work so that way you can make content for yourself or your business. And if you're the type of person that actually wants to make content for other people and make it a profitable business, you can literally click the link in the description. Literally, we're talking about a community and a coaching program that me and my business partners developed together. And we have a really cool community happening over there. Click the first link in the description. Otherwise, if you're still watching and you happen to see a YouTube video that YouTube is actually recommending to you right now somewhere on the screen, click on that if you love this video so far. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Peace.